I love watching other content creators, and I love when they show me some new skill that makes painting better for me, makes it easier, faster, whatever it could be. But every now and then they show me something that I think, oh man, I gotta try that. That's gonna be cool. And it does not help. That's what this week's video is about. So let me explain. So I have been watching the Miniature Masters series that Squidmar is doing on his channel, and I'm loving it. I love the, you know, game show style elimination challenges and all about painting miniatures. And it's kind of cool to see people work within time limits that I feel like are something that we can easily do. And so far, I mean, they're only a few episodes in, but every episode I've seen something that I thought, wow, I should try that, you know. And the latest one was sketching, which I didn't even know was a thing. And the funny thing is like when I started looking into it, I realized I had watched a bunch of videos on it and it had just never clicked in my brain. But anyway, it's sketching, and the guy who's explaining how it works and showing them off starts with this bust of an orc, and they give him like 30 minutes, and in the show it's like 30 seconds that you actually get to see. And in that, he takes this orc from a black bust to, I was just like in shock of what he was able to do. And he's kind of explaining how it works, and he's using sketching. And sketching, so basically what that is when you take your paint, and in most situations you see it as like they're showing values. So they're showing the difference between light and dark. So a good way to sketch would be honestly to just take a black miniature and sketch, use white paint on all the places that light is going to be. And now, if you're listening, you might understand how that sounds like something else. And we'll get into that kind of when I go over my results of what I found. But I started painting Bandit today from Warmachine, and he's the newest super heavy jack for the Gravediggers, and I love my Gravediggers. It is a cool army. They are a cool faction. The robots, the jacks are amazing, and there's so much life to them. And so I wanted to do this right. I wanted to do it the best that I can do. You know, and it's a bigger model, so I thought I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks. I'm gonna do my best in 2 weeks when I usually try to do everything in one, which is crazy, but welcome to Pulsegate Games. So anyway, I thought I'm gonna try the sketching out, and this is how it went. Now, as I start painting this, I just kind of want to point out what I'm starting to do. The thing that I saw was an orc on Squidmar's channel, and he used wet blending and sketching at the same time to do bright colors and move all these colors around to go from this model to this, to this, to this, to this, and finally to get it to look like this. And I thought that was so incredible. And so I was like, I'm going to do the same thing on my model. Problem. I didn't have inks. It's really dry where I'm at, and so it just did not work the way that I wanted it to. It still worked a little bit, but I didn't like how it came out. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this the way that I've seen other artists do it, and I'm just going to start with the white. I'm going to do the white in contrast with the dark colors that I had. I had already gone in and painted the shadows with a coal black, and so I was like, I'm just going to do all the spots that need to be highlighted so that I can see where I'm going to be highlighting. And it's simple. I mean, all you have to do is put the light source above you, and everything that you can see, that's what you paint. And you can take a picture of it. That's what I did. I took a picture of it, and I thought, okay, these are all the places that have to be white. I'm going to try and make it reflective, and so those are going to be lighter points because that is where the sun is going to be hitting this model in the most power. And so I just did that. And I started going through this and getting all the spots that I thought this needs to be highlighted. And it kind of looks like cell shading when all is said and done. So kind of cool in its own way. So I have painted this like 4 or 5 different times, trying all sorts of different combinations of colors and things like that and what I wanted. And I thought basically if I went from this white point and then I did the next color down and the next color down, you know, that I would be able to see like clearly a white here, blue here, my coal black down here, because the coal black is definitely a really dark blue. And right here you can kind of see how I've started to blend them together. So I have my whites along the upper edges, and obviously I can go to an edge highlight and things like that. But this is kind of what it will blend to, into this dark metal that becomes a lighter blue, which my original color scheme was supposed to be blue. It was supposed to be something like this, and it ended up being a lot more white in areas. And so I'm still trying to figure that out, but ultimately the skill that I have seen is basically getting these colors, you know, and then while they're wet, just blending together, because that's ultimately that's what it is it's a wet blend into the other colors. Okay, and it's what's supposed to make it look however you want it to be. And you can put emphasis on the dark, you can do emphasis on the light, depending on how you want the overall color to be of this. But the thing I will say about this is it's not necessarily hard, or it doesn't even, I mean, I think it looks pretty good, but at the end of the day, you're blending again. And I was hoping to do something a little easier. I knew it was going to be blending. I knew that was going to be a large part of it. But I also thought, oh, you know, as long as the paints are nice and wet, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I live in Utah. Nothing stays as wet as it should for as long as it should. And so it just dries up on me, even when I've added tons of water to the paints. And so ultimately, it's nice to be able to see what you're doing. And it's nice to have that right in front of you. And so it makes blending easier because you know what you're going for. You have that structure, the separation of the light and the dark. But I'm not sold on whether or not I think it's this like really great method to use or not. So I'll keep painting, let you know what I think. Okay, so I got to cut over to this. So this is my base, and in the process of painting this, I did a lot of the sketching that I saw in that Squidmar video, where they were just putting in the colors and then just blending them as they went. And so I did a lot of that in the dirt, and I love how this dirt has come up. And I know there's this weird spot right here, but that's where his foot goes, so that's why that's there. Anyway, and I started practicing with the wet blending on this Crix unit, and at first I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. I like that okay enough. And now after having done a bunch on Bandit and kind of learning how this process goes, I jumped back over to my Crix, and I thought, well, the colors are too close. I want them to be different. And so I was like, well, we'll throw some green into here. And while I've been doing it on this Crix unit, I have been loving it. Like, and ultimately it's not even sketching any, well, I guess I should say it is a little bit of sketching because I already put in like the white spots and the parts that I wanted to be elevated. And so they're there, right? And I guess that's what a sketch is it lets you know what you're going to be doing, right? It's the quick piece that you do before to let you know. And so just having that, you know, the white here is where this is going to be white, and up here on this, you know, we're going to have these curve around, so we want it here, but we also have these top unit pieces, so we want some of the sketching there. And then we have horns, and so just by doing those lines and things like that, it's easy to know what needs to be lit up. But ultimately, kind of going back to what I was saying about this, sorry, I'm trying to mix up some colors so I can show you. But ultimately, when you come in and you do those super brights that you want to do, and then you come in with the little darkers next to them, made that too wet, but that's okay. And you combine those, it just, especially in comparison to the black that we did before, and it just makes it look so good. like I am just shocked at how well that things are coming together, and the blending is working super nice. I wish I could get my paints wetter so that when I did this it wasn't so off, or like, so I could blend for a longer periods of time. And I guess that's why he uses inks, because the inks stay wet for a super long time, and so you can blend a lot more with them. And so maybe that's what I need to be doing in order to do it in the style that he was doing it, which, I mean, ultimately is kind of the goal. I just thought if I wetted down my paints it would work enough, but it doesn't. But it does work pretty good. And even with Bandit, like, it has just made painting so much easier for me because it's clear what I need to do. And so ultimately, I think it's been a success. I've actually been really happy with this, and I can't wait to finish this model, which is going to take a while just because just learning how to do this process and do it in a way that I liked has taken me all the time I have this week. But that's okay, because I'm painting 2 miniatures. I'm going to have it all nice and pretty, and next week we'll go over the completed thing. So hope you look forward to it, because I am definitely looking forward to it. So ultimately, is sketching something that I would do again? No, probably not. And the reason for this is because what I was talking about at the very beginning of this, sketching shows you where you need to put your light at, but it doesn't show you how thick the light should be. It doesn't show you how thin the light should be. You know, and if you're doing, it's nice because if you're doing something circular, you can do the circular shape of light. If you're doing a cylinder, you can do the cylinder shape of light. It allows you the customization to do all those things. So why won't I use it again? Because a zenithal highlight takes about 10 seconds. You know, you just hit it from the angle that you want it to be in, and that's it. No, is it perfect? No, it's not. But by the time that you go in and you do all the blending and you do everything else that you need to do to make it look right, you're going to wish that you had spent 10 seconds doing a zenithal highlight instead of an hour doing some sketching. And did it take me an hour to do sketching? No. And if you're really good at sketching, I'm sure it's really fast, to the point where you probably do it every time. But for my style of painting, the way that I do it, where I am trying to be messy and just throw the paint at it and get it ready, like, it just doesn't fit the style that I'm going for. And maybe if I ever do like competition painting, I'll change my mind and I'll be like, I want to do this way. It's just not different enough to matter to someone of my level. And I'm not saying I'm like advanced or anything. I still consider myself a beginner because I haven't done any painting competitions. I haven't spent more than 15 hours on a single miniature, you know? And so I feel like maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe it's over my head. But for me, I just think a zenithal highlight, a dry brush. Heck, you can do a zenithal highlight with a sponge in a fraction of the time. And because of its messy nature of using the sponge, I like that more. And I feel like it's so fast. You just... And so anyway, that is my thought on sketching. I see how incredible it can be. And I feel like my model's turning out really, really well. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing to learn, but I don't have the humidity or the inks necessary to do it in the way that the guy at Squidmar did, because the way that he did it was just awesome and fantastic. And I know it was a bust with flesh, and so I'm painting a robot with metal panels. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. But just from what I've learned, I will stick to my sponge, to my zenithal highlight. And I'm genuinely curious, for those of you who've done sketching, Does it work better? Do you like it more? Do you like it less? Just seeing what I've done, do you think it's worth doing it? Or is it one of those things that, you're on the same page as me? You're just like, no, that's probably not. Or am I missing something? Like, I watched a ton of videos trying to figure this thing out. And the funny thing is that every video was a little bit different, and a lot of them weren't super helpful. It basically just said, do a line, blend. And so maybe I'm doing it wrong. And if I am, I would love to know what makes it better and how to do it better. So if you have that information, please leave it in the comments below, because if I'm asking, chances are someone else is asking too. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for joining me on this. I cannot wait to get this model done. I love my gravediggers. It's the only army that I have painted, a full 100-point army for Warmachine. And I cannot wait to add this guy to it so that I have my big centerpiece model to go with my gravediggers. And if that interests you at all, please like, subscribe, hit that little bell on the bottom of the screen, be notified when my videos come out, be notified when part 2 comes out if you want to see how he looks when he's done. And again, thank you for sticking around this long, sticking around and watching these videos. I make them because I love this hobby and I love doing this stuff. And it's crazy how much that has changed over the years and how the channel has moved from one thing to another. But I appreciate every view I get, so thank you. And as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.